You found product market fit, but now the systems are cracking. The team needs you for everything. Growth feels like quicksand. The more you move, the deeper it pulls you in. This is the scaling paradox, where founders and operators come to get unstuck. I'm Blake Moseni, and I sit down with founders and operators that nearly burnt out and rebuilt their business to operate without them. If you're stuck in the middle, this is where we fix it.
Early in my life, I drew from fear. I drew from the fear of getting back to that moment when I was sitting and thinking about wrapping the car around a tree. And that fear drove me for a long time. Then it was fear for not having to done something in life. And then it was fear of becoming a father. And then it was fear of there was a lot of fear. It wasn't until the heart, I would say, I learned to shift fear to abundance, and not just abundance for abundance sake, but truly being happy. I think that memento mori, combined with thinking and talking about death, combined with curiosity, you can still achieve that life is long if you know how to use it mindset.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Scaling Paradox. I am so excited. Today we have Andreas Pettersson on to talk about his whole experience and journey of transition as being a founder and recreating himself again and again and again. Before we jump into today's conversation, I just want to give a little bit of preamble and background on who Andreas is, what he's doing, what he's done, and then we'll get into it. Andreas Pettersson is the author of Power Without Permission, an executive advisor and former AI SaaS CEO. As Canon's youngest standalone CEO at Arculis, he scaled it and led it to 150 employees and built a hyperscale video audio platform processing 100, is that petabytes?
Hundreds of petabytes every 30 days.
Every 30 days. Perfect. So through Leaders Adapt, he helps CEOs and founders and VPs quiet their overall imposter syndrome, build that confidence at work, and advise women in leadership. And he has advised hundreds of leaders throughout his career, with many of them achieving over 50% revenue growth and promotions within 6 months. Andres, we are so lucky to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. This will be interesting.
I'm excited to hear about what your journey has been, and I know the listeners are as well. You've achieved so much throughout your career, and I know you've taken on passion projects in recent months. Before we get into any of the large-scale accomplishments that you've achieved thus far in your life, I really want to spend some time talking about your early days. So when we initially sat down, you talked to me about things like failing out of high school. You talked to me about things like factory work. You talked to me about things like trying to realize what your true potential was over time. And I think it would be good for the listeners to really start out and understand where that hunger came from to pull you through and get you to where you're at today.
I love this question. And if I go for too long now, you can just stop me and redirect me.
Okay, sounds good.
And my story, so originally from Sweden, I grew up with a single mother who worked at a daycare, grew up as poor as you can grow up in Sweden, I would say. There's still a very good social system, good education, and so on. No one in my family have a higher education. Everyone is blue-collar workers. When I was 16 to 18, I didn't know it, but I was struggling with undiagnosed ADHD. I could not focus. I had 30% attendance in high school, meaning I didn't complete high school. I dropped out. My mother did everything she can to support me. That included waking me up early in the morning, going for a run, because a tired body makes the brain more actively listening. So we went for a run every morning. She studied with me in the evenings by walking around with me as I was moving around, or we were out walking, and she had the papers and quizzed me about things. But honestly, I was so immature. I found it so boring. My passion projects was already back then actually computers or and partying and girlfriends and all the other things I don't want to mention here. But I find myself, so I fail high school. I move with my current girlfriend to a different place, another city. And I started working night shift in an industrial factory doing So think of like every time you have an automotive and you have different rubber parts,
Sure.
or you have like, and these are like highly chemical facilities, and the smell, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, I
I
moved
hope you have
away.
like a mask on or something. No,
No,
no
no,
mask, just
back then you
inhaling all of
didn't. It
that.
was
Woo!
airflow, and it was like sometimes you inhaled it. And there were several people at this plant, sadly, that had cancer that had been working there for a
Wow.
long time. So there's a whole longer discussion about that topic.
Fair enough.
But I not seeing daylight combined with living away from my mother in a relationship, I would say wasn't too great. One night I found myself literally, and I don't know if I told you this, Blake, but one night I found myself literally thinking how I would wrap the car around a tree on my way home that night.
Mm,
Like that's the level of depression I was in, or whatever you want to call it.
hmm.
Now, my mother have always been very clear, do what makes you happy. That was her
Mm,
sort of, she's like, I don't care if you sweep the streets or you're a CEO. I just don't care as long as you're happy. So I had no pressure of
hmm.
anything. But I snapped out of that moment, quit on the spot,
Hmm.
went back to redid high school in 2 years
Mm,
with really good grades. And I think I still had undiagnosed ADHD, but I think the fear of going back to that negative thought pattern
hmm.
was just not an option. So I just forced my body to stay calm, or I moved around when I studied. I was walking and reading at the same time. And I walked the same loop
Hmm.
outside the place I lived, so I knew I wouldn't stumble upon things. And
Yeah.
or I was sitting on a indoor bicycle and just slowly treading. I needed to do something. I needed to fidget, and you won't
Hmm.
see it here, but I have things in my hands all the time. I have to control my brain by fidgeting
Hmm.
with my fingers. Um, yeah, so I turned it around. I went and I got my high school. I applied for to become a software engineer, and
Hmm.
then at that age I was almost 20, and I realized how much power you have when you can control your body and control your mind.
Hmm.
And for me it was exhausting myself. So I did a bachelor and a master with top grades in 4.5 years while working 40 hours a week.
Wow. Talk
And
about some horsepower.
yeah, but it was because if I worked really freaking hard in the restaurant I worked in as a waiter and behind the cash register, or like constantly that stress level, and
Sure.
you were on your feet for like 8 to 10 hours, and you really was working hard, you were so tired, and I could study. Like I could
Hmm.
really sit down and just memorize things and study, hardcore study, when my body was that tired. And that's why I did it. Where while others, they were, I don't know. And also, I didn't need as much sleep when I was younger.
Hmm.
Today, I need my 8 hours. That's a myth about people that lives their entire life on 4 hours of sleep. But
Hmm.
at that time, I operated with 4 to 6 hours, and it works great
Hmm.
for me. And I realized that less sleep actually helped me stay more focused when I was studying.
That's so interesting, and I think one of the things I want to call out based off what brought up there is this whole notion that, especially in our early days of life, there are these labels that get put on us, whether it's
Mhm.
ADD, ADHD, or whatever other quote unquote disorder that one of us or any person is diagnosed with. And I think it's at that point, I call them inflection points in life. Like there's a decision to be made during that inflection point. You had a rock bottom moment that helped as your inflection point to act as a catalyst to say, hey, I am going to figure out how to harness this energy in a way and point it towards something.
Yeah.
And what I would argue is part of your horsepower and ability is an outcome or an outgrowth of the quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes for the people that are listening, disability that you were originally diagnosed with and that you struggle with, and even maybe I might be reaching here, you tell me if I'm off base, drove you down your original path because you felt like you were put in a box of not being capable enough.
I was I was a high school fail that didn't have grades. No one around me believed I would amount for anything. Working in a factory seemed to be like what I was destined to do. I didn't think
Mm,
I was smart. I was suffering from imposter syndrome. I was I was not capable. Like I didn't believe in myself. Like
Mm.
just how it was. Now I've always known I've been very creative, and that was I've been always very creative, and I always now today I can put words on this. I'm a bilateral or a divergent thinker. I can,
Hmm.
well, most people can come up with 10 solutions on a problem. I can come up with hundreds because I
Hmm.
will see it from such a different angle than most people. I didn't
Sure.
understand that. That was just destructive because often in
Hmm.
school, in high school or before,
There's one
like
answer.
yeah, it was like one answer, and and you were just forced to stick there. And there's an amazing TED talk, Sir Ken Robbins Education Paradigm. Everyone should watch it. I watch it every 3 months to remind me where
Mm.
I came from.
Mm.
But I think I couldn't control my brain, and I wasn't truly officially diagnosed with something. And by that time I didn't care anymore because I built my
Sure.
own coping systems. But when I was 30, 31, and I didn't have, and the psychologist, he goes, and I said to him, I'm 30, right? And I build all these coping mechanisms, and I have understood like how to activate my brain and how to control it. And I said, and remember sitting talking with him, and I go, I think I have ADHD. And he goes, no shit. What are you gonna do? And and he's like, are you serious? Like, no shit. Like, obviously you have ADHD, and or like you have something. And that's a psychologist. And I'm like, okay,
Mm.
not the reaction I expected. And he goes, you already built all the coping systems. You already have
Mm.
all the strategies, all the game plans. What do you want to do with it? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to take this diagnose and go to your company and ask for something?
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I can put it in your file. And he
Doesn't
did.
matter.
But what are you going to do with it? And that's the
Hmm.
point. People use it as an excuse. Well, his viewpoint is you're wicked smart, you're very creative, you already are fully in control of your brain and your body. What does it help to put a diagnosis? He will just give you an excuse. That was kind of his attitude. Super cool guy. I still talk to him to this day. He's a super funny guy. I'll tell you another story as well, super quick here before we get back on sort of the storyline.
Hmm.
Later in life, I end up having heart issues. I have two
Mm.
heart surgeries later. I've reset my heart 10 times.
Wow.
When I called him directly after and I said, I accepted I was going to die. And there's a whole story here, and I talked about it officially before, but I actually thought I was going to die in that moment. The first time I ended up in the ER with a pulse of like 200, and they thought my heart was collapsing. It was like there was a
Mm.
whole story there. And in that moment, I said, okay, I had a good life. I love my life, my wife, my kids, they will be fine. So I embraced death. And I think we talked a little bit about this when
We
we
did,
talked the
yeah.
first time, Blake. But his first comment, same psychologist, I call him and I said, I can't sleep good at night. And now I'm worried if I'm going to die in my sleep. And he goes,
Mm.
congratulations. The same guy. And he's like, and what do you mean, congratulations? I almost passed here. Like, what the hell? And I said a couple of F bombs to him.
Of
Like, I actually
course.
got pissed. And he goes, most people don't embrace death until very late in life. You can control your body, you can control your brain, you can control your destiny. Congratulations for embracing that death is the outcome of life. You're untethered. Go.
Mm.
And that for me, in the moment, I didn't get it. It took me a year
I
to
just
get
got
it.
chills. I just got
Yeah.
chills.
My brain got it after a
Mm.
year. And then I'm like, yeah, because everyone else wake up and they're, oh, I'm tired. Like I wake up every freaking day saying I'm alive. Like today
Hmm.
will be amazing. And I'm not,
Hmm.
and like I am a very, like, you don't always see it right now. I'm talking about it, so I'm smiling, but I'm
Hmm.
very neutral normally in my face expression. But this is a happy story. And
Hmm.
people that I tell this to, I'm like, come on, you almost passed away. You've done heart surgeries and you still have heart issues. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's amazing.
And you're still here. I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, honestly, that's that's what I think most people are missing in the day to day. And if I look at the whole founder journey in terms of some of the activities that they're going through the slog, they're going through the slog. But so much of it just needs a repositioning. I was just talking to someone the other day and they're like, hey, I just started cold outreach. I'm reaching out to all these people and I just got my first decline. And I'm like, is that
Congratulations.
is that a good or bad? They said this is amazing. First of
Yeah,
all, someone saw my message, and
yeah.
it is the foundation for whatever I'm working towards. So congratulations that I've gotten my first decline. I'm going to keep building on top of that, and that person's going to keep building on top of it. And I think it's
Great
all
attitude.
like life is all about perspective. So as you've gone through your life and your career and you've been curating this mindset, how did you flip the script? Was it that pivotal moment of when that happened in your life, or has this been something that has been evolving over time as you've gone from uh, struggles in high school to struggles in early parts of life into building your own business, etc.?
It is something that will change. I'm adapting. I'm adapting every single day, Blake. It's not something I'm done doing. It's not one moment. I am very happy when a new moment happens. And we're going to probably talk a little bit about the book and the sort of epiphanies I had here as well. But
Sure.
let's stay on the other storyline for now. And I have to reinvent myself. And I think everyone who goes through life with the phoenix mindset of being rebirthed from the ashes, every time you have rejection, every time you're struggling with something, don't suppress the emotion, do the opposite, get curious, understand why are you feeling what you're feeling, sit with the thought. And I think especially men in US culture tend to not want to admit their emotions. I think it's the most stupid thing you can do. If you want to have true connectivity with yourself, with others, become an amazing leaders that people want to follow, that you just don't command to follow. The more you know about yourself, the more you understand how you feel and react, the better leader you are. Don't. Like that's not even up for debate. And especially in US, people are afraid of the conversation because they're afraid to be seen as vulnerable. And there is Brene Brown, she put it amazingly in her book, Power of Vulnerability. But basically, you have to be vulnerable, you have to be open, you have to know who you are, and you have to constantly understand and sit with the emotion in order for you to be able to make deep, meaningful connections with other people and feel fulfilled in life. Otherwise, you're just chasing dopamine hits one after one after one, and you end up one day in a broken marriage because your wife or your husband was not giving you the dopamine hit you needed anymore. And I think that's because you're shying away from what do I feel and what makes me happy and what am I chasing here and why am I doing all of these things. So I
I
think for
think
any
it's
leader, this is so important.
it's interesting because right now, and I've spoken about this in previous podcasts, absolutely subscribed to the hustle culture. You can see the little sign behind me. So like I do believe in you have to put your head down and
Yeah.
do I'm working 40 hours at a job. I'm working on school at the same time, just like you were telling in your story earlier. Like you have to have the ability to turn it on. But I think there's a certain point in time, and this is what I think you're getting at is, can you actually understand why you do what you do, why you want what you are actually in the true pursuit of? And I think the thing that I see so many people struggle with is creating the headspace to
Mhm.
actually be able to ask those questions and get curious, because you got these devices hanging out, you got this, you got all sorts of notifications that are vying for your attention. And I'll just, for the listeners, throw out my what I call my church is my running every single Saturday. I go out for a long run. It could be 6 miles, it could be 30 miles, and it varies based off what I'm training for. But that is my silent time. I could learn during that time. I could just be in my thoughts during that time. But that's where I learn so much about myself. So Andres, I'm interested. What's your church, and where have you had these unlocks beyond just what you've experienced through some of the life experiences you've had?
I love the fact that you said that because and you use physical motion as a way to disconnect the body to activate the brain. Um, People for years were telling me, go do yoga, sit down and just listen to the music and go in your own thoughts. I'm like, that's a freaking strange act. Like you'll make
Doesn't
me
work for me.
freak
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But what I do is I go for walks. I include, for me, it sounds stupid. I schedule time to take a long shower in the morning. And why I do that is I need the just the water constantly hitting my ears and head makes me so distracted that I can focus super clearly. I think it's a matter of finding your, you say church, Zen moment, whatever it is, but you don't have to sit still in a room. Like now I'm going to sit down and figure shit out. Like it doesn't work that way. you have to do things you love. For you, it's running. The other thing for me is hiking, but I need physical movement. I need to walk, I need to run, I need to bike. Golf is another thing that works for me, unless I end up getting paired with someone who is talking and drinking too much.
Yeah.
So for me, and that's why sometimes if I play golf, I go by myself before anyone else, super early, sun up, I'm out there. I need physical movement, but the thing is, not only do you have to think, I think you have to write it down. There is an art, there is something mentally to write things down. So when I work with people and I'm coaching, advising them on leadership, I force them to put in 30 minutes every week to journal. And some people are like, oh, am I going to do a diary? Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. It is just writing down until you have nothing else to write down. And that's when you need to start thinking about the real things. If you think like nothing else is coming to you now, okay, then just write down what you want to do for the rest of the day. Write down what makes you happy. Write down what your company needs in the next 6 to 12 months. But it's that widening the horizon. You as a founder, you're constantly in that 2 to 4 weeks mindset. And really good founders can take time to really push that to 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months out. And now they are predicting what to come. They're not reacting to what's coming in the same way. And it calms them and it makes them more efficient. So slow down to go faster. And last thing, Blake, I'm also for hustle. Like, I have no problem with that. I have my entire life been grinding hard. Like, I have another story for you. When I did my MBA, just because someone challenged me, I couldn't do it while working full time. I decided to do my MBA in 1 year while working full time, just to show them I could. I slept 4 hours for 1 year every night, just so I could prove them wrong. So I have no problem with hustling.
I love it.
I am just telling you, hustling without awareness is a life wasted.
I think we should stop the podcast there. Like that, I think that is the punchline for anybody that's listening. Joking aside, we're gonna keep going for the
Yeah.
listeners. Don't shut it off. But that said, it truly hustling without awareness, I think, is so apropos for where we're at in today's day and age, because it seems like so many people are moving like zombies in the activities that they're doing. And so thinking about everything that you've learned and the activities that you've done, so you built your previous company to 150 people. Where did you start to see that company unravel over time? Because everyone goes through different periods of growth. Where were some of those pain points, and how did you reinvent yourself during those periods to meet the needs of the company during those difficult times?
One size don't fit all, but here is what I've learned. 0 to 20 employees, everyone knows everyone. And the reason why I'm not talking numbers here is because this was owned by Canon, and I signed a stack of papers to not talk numbers. So I'm going to
Fair
talk
enough.
number of employees, and people can correlate that to revenue.
Fair
But
enough.
0 to 20 employees, or let's put it 0 to 5 million in yearly revenue. Let's put it like that. It's a very different business compared to 20 to 50, 60 employees, 60 to 100, 100 to 150. You companies go through different stages. The difference is the founder don't scale. And I had to realize that the hard way. I thought I could be heavily involved in a lot of things, but when you reach about 50 employees, it is it's hard. You can still keep everyone's name and you can roughly know who they are and what they're doing. But when you have churn or you're like whatever is going on, you can't keep up. And learning to scale people, because scale people create growing organizations. The opposite is also true. If you don't scale people and grow people, they will not grow your organization. And I would say somewhere between 30 to 50, you as the founder and the leader have to spend a lot more time of grooming the next gen of leaders, raise it root up. And you have to put in, everyone talks about like, yeah, you got to have a good culture. And yeah, I believe you got to have a very thoughtful culture that you actually set prior to starting the company. You have to say, this is what I want the company to be. But around that time frame, it is extremely important when you get a full C-suite. So you have maybe a CFO, a chief revenue officer, CTO, and you around 50 people maybe, depending on revenue. But there you gotta set the leadership culture. And it cannot be accidental. You gotta build a strategy, and you gotta start building your leadership talent programs, and you gotta start lifting people up and spending time mentoring and coaching others. Because when you hit 100, you have to shift as a founder and a CEO out of your COO mindset, being involved in operations. And it's so important that you now become a visionary that has a much longer horizon, and you work with someone else who is actually running the day-to-day business internally in the company. And in order for you to do that, you have to have set the right culture, because that person might be really good at executing, but not being a visionary, having the ability to set that leadership culture. So you set it 50 to 100 people, and then it scales beyond the 100 people. If you don't do that, you're going to find these glass ceilings you're going to hit all the time, and you will be frustrated and not understand what's going on.
I love that. So as you talk about those different stages across 20 to 50 to 100, what was some of the friction that you experienced that triggered you to say, "Hey, I need to put some systems in place to address this"? Like you started to see that there is potential risk, and I think I kind of heard you give a head nod to it, but maybe this isn't the one you want to bring up. Is this whole notion of you get to a point where you don't even know everybody's name anymore?
Mhm.
So can you give some examples to make it palatable for the listeners?
Um, I think when you are the chief problem solver, and that works up to a certain level, but when that continues, where you're doing nothing but solving people's problems, then you know you went too far without delegating.
Hmm.
And delegation is hard when it's your company, your baby. But I'm telling you, if you remain chief problem solver, you will never scale beyond that 50 people mark. And when you have a line out the door, you spend days where people have been texting you, calling you, waiting for an answer, and you're the bottleneck for the whole organization. That's a wake up call for you need leadership culture, you need to learn to delegate, and you need to learn to trust. Now, you don't have to do it to everyone, but then go get that partner that you really believe have the capacity to scale. Make sure that the two of you are fully aligned, and then hand over more and more power. So delegation to a lot of founders, and what they screw up is that they are delegating responsibility, not authority. And that's a
Mm.
huge mindset shift. You have to give both. Otherwise, you just have a glorified admin that you're paying like 500,000 a year or two for nothing, depending on the industry you're in. Um, it's the wrong mindset. It is so the wrong mindset. And the other thing I see, the big mistake that people make around that time frame, they say it's so important that we change as an organization because you as a founder are craving change. You know you need
Mhm.
change.
Mhm.
And then you complain about everyone else not changing, but you're not willing to change yourself.
Hmm.
And
So,
that just becomes toxic. So those are, I don't know if I answer your questions, but those are some of the red flags where, okay, it's time to do something different.
well, it's funny. It kind of it harkens back to a previous point that we were talking about, which is this whole notion of being willing to listen to your mind, being able to get curious about where there is friction or where you feel uncomfortable. These feel like they go hand in hand. It's there's pain within the business. Maybe you're not getting the outcomes you're looking for. You're frustrated and you're not willing to change. If you don't get curious about why you're not willing to change, you can't continue to reinvent yourself and continue to grow with the company. And so the through line that I'm finding as we continue to talk about this whole notion of reinvention is creating the space to actually do so, to actually reflect, is the catalyst. And maybe your hack. Everyone's looking for a hack these days. Your hack for anybody that's listening is the commitment to 30 minutes of journaling per week.
That's huge. Go get even like this is not a mini promotion for me. Go find any leadership coach, mentor that have actually done it before. Don't
Mm,
go find a show coach that's just good at asking questions that's never run a company before. Sorry,
mhm.
you're out there, but you're great at some things. But when you do CEO, like and you work with true CEOs, I believe you have to have the battle scars yourself to be truly
Absolutely.
able to help people.
Mhm.
But Not saying there are exceptions, obviously, but what I'm saying is self-awareness, journaling. The other hack is absolutely go get someone external. And then my third is you must join a CEO peer group, mastermind, whatever it is. Someone, but just pick a group that have very direct communication. Don't pick a social club. And I don't want to throw out names here, but there are many Vistage YPO groups I have seen and been part of that becomes let's go on a trip together and drink wine and go whiskey tasting and play golf and go sailing. I'm talking like get shit done groups that actually just are very brutally direct to one another and call bullshit on one another. That's what you need. And that has a diversity. So don't pick a group that is some people when they structure these, they put everyone in tech in the same group and everyone in manufacturing in the same group. Like I would say the opposite. You need diversity of thought and thinking and go into that room and be curious, but also go in and put your heart on the table and let people stab it or at least try to stab it. That's how you get change. So those are my three hacks. Journaling to get self-awareness, go get a business coach, advisor, mentor, whatever you want to call it, and join a group.
I love that. And I think people are hungry for community. And
Hmm.
so finding a place where you can be honest and you can get challenged and the goal is lifting each other up is
Yes.
super rare. And so I to your point, being able to find that I think is a huge input to facilitating success over the long term.
And
I'm
if it's not
wondering,
working, leave.
go ahead, sorry.
If it's not working, if you join a group and you feel like you're not getting challenged anymore, that's a red flag. Go find another group just to do the change. I would say, as much as you listen to yourself when things are too good and too stable, you're not listening enough. Like, life is not freaking easy. And if you think life is easy, you're not growing fast enough.
I love that push. I think it's the whole notion that if you want exponential growth cycles, if you want exponential outcomes, you need to be able to take exponential change on and reinvent yourself over time. And so this comes to this whole notion of okay, you grew this company from the small kernel up to 150 employees. You were able to exit at that point in time. And I think so many founders, some don't even ever want to exit because their identity is wrapped up in the company that they've built. And that's not a knock one way or another. Everyone has to make the decision that they can rest their head on the pillow at the end of the night and be okay with. But what I'm wondering is, as you went through that change, as you went through that next chapter of reinvention, what was the foundation that you went back to help you reinvent yourself for this next chapter? And what are you focusing on today?
I think, or I'll answer it like this: when you found a company and you grow it up, I do draw the parallel with having kids. Now, mine hasn't gone off to college yet, but I fear
Sure.
the day they will. And I think it's the same with a company. You have to, for you to be a great founder, you have to grow these kids' company, and then you have to let them go. And that doesn't mean that it hurts. It's hard for you to see it get merged with other companies. It's hard for you to see the people who were the fire souls of the company feeling unhappy or whatever, but it's out of your control. You're giving up a piece of your identity, a piece of your ego, when the company is not in your control anymore. And you're giving up the relationships, especially if you've been very well connected with a lot of these people. It hurts. So be prepared for it hurting. But again, hurt is a good thing. There is a lesson to be learned here. And it's the time you sit with that. So for me, I would say the first 4 to 6 weeks after I left, I was rediscovering what is it that I want to do now? What am I passionate about? What is it that I am fired up about in the morning? And I doubled in a few things, but it's not until you get that, like, okay, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I'm today is going to be exciting. I know exactly what's coming up. That's where you're like, okay, this is my passion. So yeah, I had to reinvent myself again, and I'm going to reinvent myself until the day I die. That's part of life, and I love that. But I had to recalibrate the what I love versus what I'm good at. So since I exited, and I was offered to stay for 2 years in the merger at a very healthy paycheck, I was just done. I didn't feel like it's like if I send my kids off to college, I can't go live in the dorm. It just feels wrong. So I'm like, no, it's better to let go and move on. And it's not about money; it's about mindset. And I was done. Um, with that said, I've been offered to be CEO, to do turnarounds, to do other things since. And right now, I'm not passionate about that. So the second part of your question is, what do I do today? I realized that my passion is helping other founders through these things. And like I said, there is a million and one coaches and mentors out there. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm better than everyone, but I've lived it and I have been through it and I can talk openly about it and I can push others. That's what makes me good. It's like radical candor. Let's go, let's grow. Like that is sort of you can kind of hear it from my story of how I operate. And I call
Absolutely.
bullshit on things. Like if you are lying to yourself, I will tell you. I talked to one CEO this morning who I'm like, okay, I don't want to go. People know who my clients are, so I don't want to go into it because I'm very reserved about it. But let's just say I had to have a little come to Jesus meeting with one of my clients this morning about what's happening in the company, and and you can think that you get yourself fired as an advisor doing that, and you're uncomfortable with someone. The person's reaction was like, "Thank you for saying it." Like I wouldn't have been able to say it that precisely myself. And that's the indication. So I think if you're willing to, the best mentors best mentors out there have been founders. They're willing to roll the dice. And I hated when I worked with advisors that was like a leech that just sucked on and was like there for 2 years, and they always found another problem and another project. My model is like, I want to go in, I want to work with people for 6 to 9 months. I don't want them around anymore. Like, sure, I can be on call for you. That's a different story. But if I haven't pulled off a miracle within that time frame, you shouldn't be working with me. Like, then go find someone else who can. So I have a different attitude. And as a result, I am going to be very direct, no emotional, and you'll at least know what I think. And then it's your choice to do something about it. So that's my passion. My other passion of what I'm doing today is for the last 10, 15 years, I've been pro bono helping people of diversity and women into more leadership positions because I kept seeing freaking brilliant people getting passed up on just because there was someone else with more confidence when the other person was a way better leader and a way better candidate. And I saw the pattern where it happened more to women and people of diversity. And when I moved to US, I was shocked about it. So I've been doing that pro bono for a long time, almost 2 decades actually. And I wrote a book about it. It's called Power Without Permission. You had it in the intro, and that's purely a passion project. And why I'm bringing this up, super important. I wrote this book because I grew up, and that's where my story started, with a single mother working at a daycare. We did not have much, but she was a freaking good leader and always helping out other people. And it's her 80th birthday today, actually.
Beautiful.
Um,
Happy birthday.
and I wrote the book. Yeah, happy birthday, mom. But and I already talked to her for a long time today. But what I'm trying to say is, people like her growing up in a different time frame would have had very different opportunities if they were given the opportunity. And I want to change that. So that's why I talk about reinventing yourself. Like now, I wrote a book. Like, yeah, I wrote a book as a middle-aged, sometimes chubby white guy, talking about why we need more women in power in different companies. And the half of the book is written about that. The other part of every chapter is, dear leader, men and women, here is what you need to do to have more diversity so you get more innovation, you get a stronger culture, you get longer retention. And it's been proven statistically over and over and over again. Diversity for diversity's sake doesn't work, but diversity with the right candidate in yields so much better results. So I wrote this book with 13 amazing, badass women that I have either coached, mentored from entry level to C levels. They have their own companies. They're making a lot of money. They're just phenomenal. Some of these, like all of them are, but like what they have done is amazing. And that's the stories, raw, and they are as direct and unfiltered as I am in the book. Some of them are even telling stories that they were like, I had to ask them, are you sure you want to tell this story? And like, yeah, I need it out there. I need to move past this.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah, that's my latest passion about reinventing myself.
I love it. And I think, first of all, thank you for all that you're doing in the community to continue to perpetuate growth across leaders of diversity and different backgrounds. I think to your point, it's it's so great to hear that you've gotten to that mission portion of your life. One of the things that I'm wondering about as you're talking through this is there's a I'm not going to say the quote directly. There's someone named Sun Tzu. So there's a book I'm reading right now called 33 Laws of War by Robert Greene. I don't know if you're a Robert Greene fan. He wrote
I
48
haven't
Laws of Power and some of these other books out there. Spectacular in terms of the way he crafts it. And I'll send some info over afterwards if you're
used
interested.
to.
But this book is primarily focused on strategy. And one of the pieces that he's talking about, he's quoting a previous philosopher, Sun Tzu, I think from Chinese dynasty, talking about the notion of creating a death ground. And the proverbial death ground is the notion that, hey, if you put yourself in a situation where there is no exit, like you don't have a retreat plan, you actually harness the best outcomes possible and are able to achieve things that you couldn't even conceive possible because you don't have any other option. And so what I'm hearing as you're talking through this, and we're going to tie it into the book conversation in just a second, but I'm hearing that you've experienced a near death experience with some of the heart issues that you had. And that has created a pseudo death ground, this urgency to go experience life for all its wonders
Hmm.
because you realize how short the actual duration of, like, anything can happen. You get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? And so and so I'm interested in what your feedback has been to leaders you've worked with or even just the listeners at this point in time and how they can create that proverbial death ground. Because what I would contend is you already have proven you are a high performer and you're doing a bunch of things. But this has effectively been the jet fuel to take you to that next chapter of your life. And so, how can people recreate that without having to have some heart issues in their own lives?
Um, that's a great question. No one asked me that before. Um, Maybe I'll get into it. I'll freestyle a little bit here on the answer
Please.
because you were saying
Yeah.
a few things. So first of all, I believe I shifted my mind to life is long if you know how to use it. Life is not short. Life is long if you know how to use it, and that's an abundance mindset. The other thing is, I believe that even if you don't have a deaf experience, the more time you spend reading philosophy, reflecting on things, sitting with your emotion, being okay to be in pain, lean into the pain and understand the pain, um, you can still have the similar outcome, I think, in life. I think there's a memento mori
Big fan.
mindset, which is you die a little bit. Death isn't an end station. You die a little bit every single day. I think you die, and I mean, Daily Stoic and all those conversations. But he has one video where he talks about memento mori, and I highly encourage everyone to watch that video. There is another one which is not Stoicism, but another one. His name is Prince Iya, and he talks about what is it called? Basically, he starts it. It's not getting to the end of it. It's not death that people fear. It's getting to the end of life only to realize that they never truly lived. And I think, and I can send you the link afterwards. But
Please do.
the point with these is that you have to sit with the fact that you're going to die one day, and there is no. It's the one thing you know for certain in life, and you have to live every day. And I know it's not the carpe diem and like all of that, but I need you to sit with it. I need you to think about the death is, and it happens to you every single day. And again, Daily Stoic, like you were sitting here talking, I made this choice to spend an hour here. Okay, or an hour and a half, depending on how long we go. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
point is, Blake, that's time I could have spent doing something else, but I choose to do it. So being hyper aware in the moment of why are you choosing what you're choosing, then you kind of get the same effect. The biggest difference is that I draw from and we should talk about this as well. I early in my life I drew from fear. I drew from the fear of getting back to that moment when I was sitting and thinking about wrapping the car around a tree.
Hmm.
I and that fear drove me for a long time. Then it was fear for not having to done something in life, and then it was fear of becoming a father, and then it was fear of like there was a lot of fear. It wasn't until the heart, I would say, I learned to shift fear to abundance, and not just abundance for abundance sake, but like truly being happy, truly untether myself. And then I have a son with autism, and I could be miserable about that, or I can think of him as an amazing superhero that I am just happy that he just don't like kryptonite like Superman,
Hmm.
and he has to happen to have some things in life that is kryptonite. How can I build the
Hmm.
opposite? So curiosity. I think that memento mori combined with thinking and talking about death,
Hmm.
combined with curiosity, you can still achieve that life is long if you know how to use it mindset. And you can
Hmm.
still and then the last piece I would give you is find a passion you're like and really like if you don't get super excited every morning when you wake up and you're like I'm going to spend most of my time today doing that, you don't have the right thing. And you need and people are like, oh, but how do I find it? Just freaking sit with it over and over and over and over and over again, like, or join another group, or tell people what you love, and tell people what you're good at but you don't love, and tell people, like, just start telling people, be open, be afraid to be hurt. Because if you have the mindset, the sense of urgency with the curiosity, and you have a really freaking clear north star of where you're going, I think then you live the same way that I live.
Hmm.
And I wrote, and I'm not promoting, we didn't plan this, but I do have, maybe it's not even there anymore. I wrote something that was just like, when I start coaching and mentoring people into this mindset, I had something called the 12 steps of finding your North Star.
Hmm.
And in there, I list out a lot of these, like just super ugly. I just wrote it in a Google Doc and I put it out there. If not, I will put it back up. It's on leadersadapt.com. You have to, I think you click blog and there are a couple. If it's not there, I will put it
I'm
up.
gonna grab it from you. We'll link it out for the
Yeah.
listeners.
But my point is that it's just a few steps and you just have to do the work and then
Hmm.
surround yourself with other people. Like I, to this day, as I shed or I rebirth as a phoenix, every time I do that, the first thing that comes to my mind is who do I need to surround myself with now? It
Hmm.
doesn't mean I don't keep my friendship. It doesn't mean I don't have friends for the last 30 years. I do, or longer. But what I'm saying is that I'm always thinking, who is it that I need to surround myself with now that I rebirthed again?
Hmm.
And people tend to get stuck with the same people. I want to surround myself with people that are way ahead of me. Today, I surround myself from a philosophy and mindset perspective, people that are in their 60s and 70s. I learn more from them about life and their regrets so I can avoid their regrets and not sit in their spot. I think every single day I ask myself, what will I regret on my deathbed? What did I
Hmm.
do today that I will regret on my deathbed? Or what didn't I do today? I ask myself that in the evening. And it absolutely shifts the perspective of what is relevant or not relevant. And sure, sometimes I have friends who's like, why did you brush me off for just, you said you were coming to my party and you decided not to. Sorry, I love you, but I needed to do something else. I would have regretted if I spent that day with you. I'm sorry. I love you. I'll break it up to you. I'll come next time or we'll have a lunch or whatever. But it's that saying no. So sometimes I've learned to prioritize my own life and not living the life for everyone else.
It's
Long
so. I mean,
answer.
that like you're dropping some amazing bars on this podcast, Andres, and I think what I appreciate most about what you're talking about is it's not just the curation of your own self formula, like around memento mori and resting on your deathbed in terms of mindset. It's also the curation of your inputs, which I think so
Mm.
many people miss in some of their day to day operations. And what I appreciate about this is though we are talking about mindset and philosophy, I think for the founders that are listening, I want to call this out before I make my point. This is what helps you show up in the best way possible for your organization. And so if you don't take care of this, the likelihood of you getting to where you're trying to get to or unlocking the roadblocks that you're running into is very low. So thinking about things like what's the food that you're putting into your system? Not only what are the relationships that you have, but what is the content that you're consuming on a regular basis? I know people that have a million people that they follow and they're just scrolling and just getting pumped full of all sorts of things that are pumping them up in a negative way, that are taking them away from whatever they're trying to achieve. But what I think is most salient about what you've called out is this notion of you got to live for you. And and it's really weird because in this day and age, that is a taboo statement. It's be selfless, do this. And I'm not saying don't do good things, but if you are doing things and you are doing them out of a place of dread or not wanting, and I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect. I absolutely still have things that I do that I maybe don't want to do. But I'm working on it.
Mhm.
And the times that I live my truth, kind of like you said, live into your passion, live into what's pulling you one direction or another, life is so much better that way.
I love the fact that you summed it up that way. And for founders who are listening and they go, I don't want to do that fluff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Good
You're
luck.
good.
If you don't want to do that, you won't be successful. You won't be fulfilled. Sure, there are exceptions. I can tell you that. I'm part of some networks that are filled with people that have had many successful exits.
Mm-hmm.
They all talk like me, very open, no ego. It just is. I've also met people who have swung for the fences and failed multiple times. They are not talking openly. There is a
Mm.
lot of ego, there is a lot of perception management. It doesn't work that way. You need to, I'm telling you, it's like, yeah, you can be lucky, you can swing for the fences and you can hit a home run. Like, good for you. You're just going to search the next dopamine hit. You're going to get yourself into the next problem, and you will not be fulfilled. Like, you need to, there's an awareness, and I don't want to make it religious or spiritual. It's not an enlightenment thing, but there is absolutely understanding this thing in here and controlling it. I mean, you heard it throughout this podcast. I've been very clear. I could not control it when I was younger. I argue that I just started in a different state than many people, but there's a lot of people that I meet today who are in their 40s, 30s, 50, like they're older. They still don't control it. They don't know how to say no. They are just a random equation of everything that just have happened in their lives, or they're living other people's lives. Like, and they can still be
Mm-hmm.
successful. I don't see them happy. I
Mm-hmm.
truly don't think you can make deep, genuine connections with other people until you truly understand yourself and you kill the ego and you dare to be vulnerable. Doesn't make you or less successful, doesn't mean anything. But those are the people that live the happiest, most fulfilled life I have seen, at least. And like I said, I talk a lot with people in their 60s, 70s, even people are approaching 80s.
So there's a quote that I like that says, "The treasure you seek is in the cave you're afraid to go into. The treasure you seek is in the cave that you're afraid to go into." And I
Yeah.
think what you have summarized, and I've said that quote on previous podcasts, but what I appreciate about that quote and everything that you've said is this whole notion that reinvention is found in that cave. Like, usually the reinvention doesn't happen because there is a fear associated to stepping into that cave and the loss of identity and ego that has to be let go of to come up again as the phoenix, as you very poetically said. And so I think that's what I want the founders to leave with, is this notion that it's scary, it's okay that it's scary, but take that first step. It's going to open you up to that next chapter. Now, before we get ready to wrap for today's conversation, I'm interested, I wrap all podcasts with this. What are you most excited about looking into the future? What are you jazzed about?
The most exciting. I'm excited about a lot of things.
You can
Um,
choose top three. Top three.
top three. I'll rephrase it to I'm fascinated by a couple of things that are happening right now. Um, I'm fascinated to have lived in the age where AI is changing lives, workforces. I'm fascinated to see if it's a divergent or a convergent technology in terms of
Mm,
socioeconomic classes,
mm,
labor forces, political aspects. I am fascinated by that. I'm not saying I'm on the bleeding edge, but I'm on the cutting edge of it. I lived through all the AI waves, and I'm fascinated by what's happening. I'm fascinated by the fact that I do not understand it. And originally a software engineer, and I lived in AI since 2016, and I cannot keep up. That is
mm,
fascinating and exciting. The
mm.
second thing is what I'm passionate about is obviously the book I wrote. I'm passionate about, I want to lay on my deathbed thinking I made a change. I had an impact on people. I made a difference getting more women leaders into these corporations, getting more successful women or minority led companies. It's a passion project of mine. I'm curious to see how far can I take it before cancel culture comes after me. Um, then I'm also very fascinated by, and this is a very personal, private thing,
Sure.
seeing my autistic son and the journey he has made. And I will argue I am the best father and he has the best mother he could ever have, because what we have gone through makes us very tuned in to see how far he can come in life.
Hmm.
I have three boys. All my sons are amazing in their way.
Hmm.
I am mind blown how a person can go to be moderate to severe on the autistic, most restrictive classroom to today sit in a general education and actually
Wow.
keep up with grade level due to just that talk about learn. Like I had one journey. He has learned to control his mind already at 11 years old to such an extent, and where it's not a logical cognitive problem, it's a mindset problem. And I'm learning more from him every single day than I am sometimes from these very complex leaders and companies I work with. And I'm fascinated and inspired by that. Like, I am gonna get the opportunity to learn so much about leadership from him.
That's beautiful. And I love the call out. I think to your point, what he's achieved, he had to show up. You guys cracked the door open. He made the choice to
Mm.
show up. But the foundation that you two have broke, uh, the foundation you two have laid, coupled with your own experience and your own mindset around this whole notion of reinvention, uh, is absolutely the catalyst for that. And so, beautiful things that you're excited about. In terms of the next steps for all of the listeners that are tuning in. So if you look back on your experience and you reflect on everything that you've seen up until this point, you've been able to grow companies, you've been able to help grow your son into the high performing individual that he has become. What is the one piece of advice that you would go back and share with your younger self that was in that factory based off everything that you know today?
Um, you are already brilliant. You are amazing. Use what you have instead of try to mimic what everyone else has.
Beautiful. I love it, man. I don't think anybody could have said it better. I appreciate you joining the podcast today. I appreciate you sharing authentically and sharing not only your early experiences, but everything you've gotten to up until this point. Before we wrap up, where can people find you, hear more about things that you're doing, and where can people buy that book?
Go to leadersadapt.com. That's where every week I get super creative. I write probably three different blog posts about different topics, everything from leadership, women, leadership, AI even. The book can be found on Amazon. It's available on September 25. And it's available in all the different formats, even the audiobook. And if you also want to find me, I am Andreas, the CEO, on most social medias. I would say LinkedIn and Instagram are the two I'm most active on. So just follow me there. And don't be a stranger. Like if something resonated with you, or you have an idea, or you disliked something, I won't debate you, but I want to know. I want feedback, good or bad, and I reply to almost every single message I still get to this day. Now, granted, I have someone reading it first, but they filter every single day they filter out the ones I should reply to. And so if you ask me a question, I still will spend quite a lot of time. I often leave voice memos to people who say, hey, I got this company with this problem. And I do take 5 minutes here and there and just shoot back an audio message and say, hey, try this.
Absolutely. Well, Andreas, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you
Listeners
so much for
are
having me.
thankful for having you on and excited for other opportunities in the future. That's it for this episode of The Scaling Paradox. If this helped cut through the chaos, please send it to another founder or operator that's stuck in it too. If you haven't subscribed yet, let's fix that. New episodes of The Scaling Paradox drop every other Thursday. There's no filler in this podcast, just the real work of scaling past yourself.